If you could start your life over, would you do it? At first glance, it seems like a simple question, but the more you think about it, the more you realize the answer is far more complicated than it appears. The manhwa, Becoming the Monarch, explores exactly this topic, offering a fresh perspective in an already well-established genre. Yeah, the idea going back in time, regression manhwa, is a common trope in this type of story, but Becoming the Monarch changes the rules of the game a bit. It may not necessarily be the best manhwa out there, but I consider it a true hidden gem. It portrays a harsh world where future knowledge can transform an ordinary man, Chris, our protagonist, from a mere soldier into a feared and respected monarch. In short, those who stand by him become allies, while those who oppose him, well, they likely end up 6 feet under. So, if you want to know why Becoming the Monarch deserves your attention and what answer it offers to the question if you could start your life over, would you do it? Grab a drink, some snacks, and let's uncover the answers to all these questions together. Hi, I'm Azabe. Before we begin, I recommend you checking the chapters of this video to avoid any of the spoilers. Enjoy watching. I know what you are thinking. The art in the first chapters of Becoming the Monarch doesn't seem all that impressive, but I promise you, as the story progresses, the style improves significantly. The slightly goofy vibes remains, but the artistic quality climbs level by level, where the author Doi and the artist 2631 truly showcase their potential. By the end, they create panels of better scenes that are honestly a visual orgasm, or as kids these days might say, it's so peak! Now that we have clarified the art, let's dive a bit into the story. You might not know this, but the author of this manhwa is not the same as the author of the novel. It's based on a novel written by Sol Pung. So, inevitably, there are differences, some small, others quite significant, added by the manhwa's author. The story begins with Chris, our protagonist, attacked by an enemy soldier who leaves him without an arm. Then, we found out it's just a dream, a trauma from the past. Chris travels with Royce, his friend, and they both seem to be mercenaries escorting a merchant with some goods. When Chris jokes that it's unlikely they'll encounter bandits, that's exactly what happens. One of the mercenaries in the group betrays them, and Chris, trying to buy time, negotiates with the bandits and, of course, attacks them, hoping to help the others escape. But the leader of the bandits isn't just anyone. He's searching for a valuable artifact precious enough to guarantee wealth for several generations. In a last-ditch escape effort, Chris steals the artifact with his mouth and jumps off a cliff into a river, armless, knowing his chances of survival are near zero. In the river, Chris reflects on his final thoughts, but the mysterious voice speaks to him. In search of the essentials, thirst of knowledge, passion and dedication. Then just as it seems like everything is over, the voice says, the desire to return. And Chris wakes up at 15 years old, exactly at the moment when he lost his arm. This time, however, he managed to dodge, and the text "Expect gain" appears in front of him. Shocked Chris realizes it isn't just a vision, he actually gone back in time to the moment that changed his life. This is how chapter 1 ends, leaving us with the question, how will Chris use this second chance and what will he do differently? What can I say? Even though it's only the first chapter, the story starts perfectly, without wasting time on unnecessary explanations. It drives straight into the plot. It shows us the main character, Chris, with all the traumas and difficult life he led after the mistakes of his first life. The artifact and the reason for his return to the past are revealed immediately, a rare occurrence in this genre of manhwa, where these details often remain mysterious or are never explained. Immediately after, Chris returns to the past, right at the moment that changed his life, and with all his memories intact, prepared to change his destiny. Chapter 1 is short and to the point. It tells you exactly what you need to know without dragging on, and this style captivated me. That's why I decided to give this manhwa a chance, and I don't regret it for a second. It's worth trying because every decision Chris makes has logic and purpose. The story is well structured and keeps him constantly balanced. It doesn't turn him into a super powerful character instantly, giving you the sense that he is in a constant struggle to become stronger and avoid repeating the mistakes of his past. The moment we see him becoming the most powerful is only at the end, when the title of the manhwa becomes reality and Chris truly becomes monarch. Even though he uses future knowledge to build his power and gather wealth for his kingdom, it doesn't guarantee him success. You'll see him fighting for every step without being invincible, unlike in other manhwa where the protagonist quickly becomes OP and easily defeats all enemies. Instead, here, even though he's been given a second chance and knows what's coming, the story shows that without a well thought out decision and efficient use of information, the outcome can be just as tragic. In fact, Becoming the Monarch emphasizes how important it is to know how to apply what you know. So, for all this to make even more sense, let's dive into the spoiler section. If you want to avoid them, skip directly to the conclusion and rating chapter. If you are ready to know everything, stick around, but proceed at your own risk. Let's start with the first difference between Becoming the Monarch and other manhwa of this genre. Unlike the usual stories where a protagonist quickly becomes invincible, Chris' journey is about a constant evolution. He's training ending isn't confined to a short arc, instead it's woven throughout the entire manhwa. Yes, there is a set of chapters dedicated to this process, but Chris continues to train and improve permanently, facing challenges that test his limits. As the story progresses, Chris' responsibility gradually increases. At first, he uses his future knowledge to protect his comrades, then he leads a regiment, a battalion, and eventually governs a kingdom. A pivotal moment comes when Chris is granted the title Prominent, along with a seemingly worthless territory, a barren, arid land. The rest of the nobility didn't contest this, believing the land to be useless. However, Chris knew something they didn't. The land considered a treasure, massive salt deposits, a resource more valuable than gold in that era. Using these deposits, Chris builds a solid economy, transforming the neglected territory into a cornerstone of his success. Another key aspect is Chris's relationship with the prince he saves. This prince was not the firstborn, so he had no direct claim to the throne, and, moreover, had no desire to rule, being passionate about art and drawing. However, to the betrayal of his older brother, the one meant to become king, the prince's life is put in danger. Chris intervenes and, to protect him, is forced to eliminate the older brother. Thus, the prince ascends to the throne, despite not initially wanting it, taking on the responsibility solely to prevent power from falling into the hands of corrupted nobility. The loyalty between Chris and the prince becomes a central element of the story and Chris's rise. These events culminate in Chris's transformation into an uncontested leader. Thanks to the Prominent's resources, his strategic abilities, and his relationship with the prince, no one can oppose him anymore. Not even the nobility dares challenge him, as his wise level, a unique power in this universe, far surpasses any rival. Let's also talk about the mysterious power that plays a crucial role in becoming the monarch. Wise. The special ability allows Chris to control mana and grow increasingly powerful as he climbs the levels of Wise. But don't be fooled. Wise isn't a magical power that solves everything effortlessly. With each level, Chris gains unique abilities that radically changes his chances in battles and strategies. However, these powers come with challenges. In the battle against the orcs, Chris pushes his Wise to its limits but learns the hard way that this power has a price. Excessive use rapidly drains his stamina, leaving him vulnerable at the most crucial moments. Nevertheless, in one of the most intense moments, his confrontation with an elite orc, Wise becomes his salvation. With nearly equal power, the fight turns into a true test of endurance and strategy. Even though Chris constantly grows stronger, the story emphasizes that Wise doesn't make him invincible. Each battle brings tension, and the risks he takes keep him a captivating protagonist, always struggling for survival. Chris doesn't become the monarch overnight, and that's what makes Becoming the Monarch so engaging. With every step forward, he faces both known risks and unforeseen ones, especially as history begins to change. Events he was familiar with occur differently or much earlier, constantly keeping him on edge and in difficulty. A memorable example? The fight against elves serving a dragon, a terrifying being trying to take control of the continent. In a cinematic moment of the story, Chris manages to defeat the dragon, considered the final boss or the series' greatest enemy. This victory marks the moment Chris truly becomes a monarch, bringing the story to its conclusion. But it doesn't end there. Side stories add a special charm, revealing details from important moments in Chris's life, including moments we weren't aware of, and a few episodes after he becomes monarch, such as wedding of his best friend whom Chris saved back in chapter 1 by treating his leg. What makes this manhwa so different? Chris' growth isn't rushed or exaggerated. He doesn't suddenly become invincible after a few chapters, as seen in many other stories of this genre. Each rank, every bit of progress is well documented, giving you time to witness his growth and see him become stronger. And when the title becomes reality at the end, you will feel that this moment is earned without plot armor or nonsensical overpowered abilities. Now that we have discussed the spoiler-free parts, let's move on to the conclusion and see why this story deserves your attention. And now the question remains, if you could start your life over, would you? My answer after the entire story is a resounding yes, but with one condition: to never let my guard down just because I know the future. The manhwa Becoming the Monarch perfectly demonstrates that having knowledge of what's to come doesn't guarantee success. In fact, every decision can trigger a butterfly effect, transforming the familiar future into a completely uncharted and dangerous territory. My rating for this manhwa is 8 out of 10. Why? Well, even though the art at the end is phenomenal on the level of a visual orgasm for some fights, the beginning is is honestly a bit weaker in this regard. Additionally, while the story innovates within the progression manhwa genre, we can't ignore the fact that this genre is already oversaturated. Koreans seem to be obsessed with regression stories just as much as the Japanese with isekai. That said, the execution is excellent, and Becoming the Monarch rises above many other titles in this category. I hope this story has convinced you to give it a try, or at least made you curious to check it out. I've been Asabe and I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me your theories in the comments, tell me what you think I've missed, and don't forget out the next recommended video right here. Bye! So, these fights are called visual orgasm. Can you imagine, you nudes, how weird it would be if someone overheard me saying that in the line at the grocery store? Yes ma'am, I enjoy reading. For the fights, you know, for the fights.